Today, we are looking at an absolute earthquake in the digital finance space. If you're part of the XRP community, you know you've been waiting years for the true convergence of traditional finance and Web3. Well, guess what? That patience is paying off. A traditional finance giant has just mapped out the exact future of the XRPL ecosystem, and we've got their literal playbook. We're going to break down SBI Holdings' May 2026 financial results presentation. This master plan reveals exactly how institutional capital is aggressively positioning itself around Ripple, XRP, and the brand new RLUSD stablecoin. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this unbelievable number right here. $50 billion. That is Ripple's staggering corporate valuation as of March 2026. For anyone who's been keeping track of the digital asset industry, this figure is massive. Undeniable validation from the private market. We're not just talking about a speculative token price here. No, this is the valuation of the corporate entity building the actual infrastructure. We're going to see exactly how Ripple is using this immense financial weight to completely rewire institutional finance.
So, here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, SBI's record-breaking year. 2, Ripple's surging valuation. 3, rapid ecosystem acquisitions. 4, launching the XRP Treasury. 5, stablecoins and RLUSD integration. And finally, number 6, XRPL's multi-chain advantage. All right, Section 1, SBI's record-breaking year. Before we look at where all this money is going, we really need to understand the architect behind this financial presentation. SBI Holdings isn't just some casual observer in the digital asset space. They are a bona fide traditional finance titan. Look at this. For the fiscal year ending March 2026, SBI reported a record high revenue of over 1.89 trillion Japanese yen. That's a 31.4% increase year over year. And their consolidated profit, that surged by 83% to a record 516.7 billion yen. Honestly, these massive TradFi numbers validate SBI as a true whale partner, one with the incredibly deep pockets required to aggressively push Web3 and XRP Ledger adoption globally. Moving to Section 2, Ripple's surging corporate valuation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the exact transparent breakdown of XRP supply dynamics, mapped out right here in a massive institutional report. We can see the total max supply of 100 billion XRP, with approximately 61.68 billion currently circulating in the market. But look closely at Ripple's specific holdings here. There is roughly 33.20 billion XRP locked securely under escrow, compared to just 5.10 billion inaccessible XRP held by the company itself. For any hardcore XRP fan, seeing this structured escrow mathematically validated by a TradFi giant is absolutely vital. It proves the exact kind of mathematical predictability that massive institutional players demand before they even think about committing to a network. And you know what? That predictability is drawing in some serious capital. Just look at this timeline of accelerating momentum. Back in November 2025, Ripple's corporate value hit $40 billion through a $500 million financing round. Then, just a few short months later in March 2026, they conducted a massive $750 million share buyback, pushing their valuation to a cool $50 billion. I mean, a share buyback of this magnitude, that signals supreme internal confidence, making sure Ripple has total strategic control as they accumulate immense capital for their next big moves. Which brings us to Section 3, rapid ecosystem acquisitions. So what exactly do you do when you're a highly profitable $50 billion company with clear regulatory status? Well, you buy the infrastructure. This acquisition timeline is an absolute goldmine. It maps out Ripple's aggressive transition from being just a digital custody provider into a full-blown multi-asset financial powerhouse. They started off with Medico for $250 million and standard custody to really lock down that foundational trust infrastructure. Then they snagged Rail for $200 million to capture stablecoin payments. But look at October 2025, acquiring Hidden Road, a multi-asset prime broker, for $1.25 billion, and G Treasury, a treasury software provider, for $1 billion. Ripple isn't just building the blockchain anymore, they are literally buying up the traditional prime brokerages that will eventually route institutional capital directly onto the XRP Ledger. It's a real game changer. Now on to Section 4, launching the XRP Treasury. And this brilliantly illustrates perhaps the most fascinating institutional play in the entire SBI Masterplan, capturing treasury flows. Here is the exact plumbing of how that capital will actually move. This is the structure of Evernorth, a US-based company engaging specifically in the XRP Treasury business. We can see a literal coalition of titans here. SBI Group, Ripple, Chris Larsen, all sitting right alongside institutional investors and crypto asset exchanges. They are highly coordinated, creating the centralized, regulated bridge for traditional capital to park itself directly in XRP. Let's look at the numbers behind Evernorth, because wow, they are staggering. They've already raised over $1.0 billion in spot XRP and cash, with SBI personally injecting $200 million in cold hard cash. But the biggest news? Evernorth is actually scheduled to list publicly on the US Nasdaq market via a SPAC. And get this, their ticker symbol? XRPN. How cool is that? Their mission isn't just to passively hold XRP in some dusty cold wallet either. They explicitly state their goal is to implement active measures to increase asset value, specifically through institutional lending and by actively leveraging decentralized finance. They're going to use the XRPL's native capabilities to generate real yield on a billion-dollar treasury.
All right, Section 5, Stablecoins and RLUSD integration.
Now, while Evernorth handles the institutional lending side of things, what about the day-to-day liquidity that fuels this whole system? Notice SBI Group's vertical integration strategy in digital finance here. It is a masterclass in ecosystem capture. Right in the middle, alongside the Japanese yen stablecoin JPY-SC and USDC, sits RLUSD, Ripple's native stablecoin. SBI is meticulously mapping out exactly how RLUSD will plug seamlessly into every single layer of their financial stack. We're talking flowing from wallets like the Startail app, directly into exchanges like SBI VC Trade, and straight into on-chain asset tokenization platforms. By natively embedding RLUSD into SBI's vast customer interface, they are ensuring massive immediate utility and liquidity for the stablecoin right from day one. Finally, Section 6, XRPL's multi-chain advantage. So the crucial point is, why build all of this massive infrastructure specifically on the XRP Ledger? Well, the data makes the choice pretty obvious. This is the ultimate technical flex by SBI, comparing the top enterprise networks out there. Let's look at Ethereum. It still suffers from high gas fees and a sluggish 15 to 30 transactions per second. I mean, we've all felt the pain of paying a $50 gas fee just to move $10 on Ethereum, right? Now look at the XRPL, an extremely low gas fee of approximately $0.0002, literally a fraction of a penny, while handling 1,500 plus TPS completely effortlessly. When you're deploying AI agents for high-frequency microtransactions or moving billions in RLUSD stablecoins and real-world assets, you mathematically cannot afford Ethereum's friction. The XRPL simply outclasses the competition for pure institutional, high-volume utility. We've seen the blueprint today. SBI and Ripple have strategically assembled an absolute unstoppable engine. They've got the $50 billion valuation, the acquired prime brokerages, a publicly traded billion-dollar XRP Treasury heading straight to the Nasdaq, and the RLUSD stablecoin, all running on a ledger that costs fractions of a penny to use. So I leave you with this provocative thought. With AI agents executing micropayments, massive DeFi treasuries generating yield, and institutional stablecoins converging on the XRPL right now, what traditional industry will this digital ecosystem disrupt next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep your eyes on the ledger.